Right, so now what we want to do is be able to change our password in Firebase Auth, so update it. So if we click here, you can see a modal pops up. It prompts for our current password and new password. And then when we click this, it should validate our old password and then change our password to the new one. So again, I've imported the UI, so we're not worrying about the UI in this project. But what essentially happens is we would change our password. So if we go into our code and I've got this change password form. So in my account page, I've got change password component. If I go through to that and scroll down, we have the change password form. And again, we have an input in here, which has the current password and the new password, and then a button as well. In this button, we would update the user password. So this is what we will be doing. Let's just check the console logwork. So if we inspect, I've got my password, which is Firebase Auth. And then the new password, I'm just going to type something random. And in my console, I should expect update user password to be called, which it has done. So that's fine. So now let's get working with the functionality to update a user password. So if we go into here, I've got a function already created. So let's comment this one out. So this is update use password. It takes in the current password and the new password along with navigate and set is loading, which is imported at the top. We need to now create this function. So let's go ahead in our folder structure where we have Firebase. In here we have email auth and password auth, so this will fit in password auth. This function is export const of update user password, which takes in the relevant parameters. So let me just quickly import them in, and all I want to do is console log in here, or actually what I'll do is the try catch block once again, which essentially is try catch, and then error is in here. So now what I want to do is basically map out what I need to do in this function. So essentially we can do our checks, but the inputs are required. So basically you can't submit anything without that. So we need to add some extra checks in here. So let's go ahead and add these checks, which is essentially getting access to the user. So that's quite easy. We do auth.current user. If there's no user, then we return. Again, this over here is just some extra checks for validation, but you can validate this how you would like. And all it is if there's a current password or there isn't and it doesn't match the requirement, then please enter your current password. And if there's not a new password, do the same again. So this is just validation. So what I'll do in here, check validation, check if valid, like that, and then also check if valid password, if current password is valid, and again the same in here for the new password. So all of this stuff is fine. What we now want to do is we want to validate the old password. And then the next thing after that, what we want to do is once we validated the old password, we essentially need to re-authenticate. So re-authenticate the user. And then finally, we just need to update the new password. So that's the steps we need to do. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing we need to do is validate the old password, which is quite simple. All we need to do is get access to email auth.provider again, which we did previously. So let's just bring that code in. So essentially const credential is equal to email auth provider.credential, and again we need to get access to email auth provider. So let me just quickly import it in the right place. So now we have the credential. Again, this takes in the email and the password as strings, both of them. So that's the current password. So it's essentially validating the old password. So you could rename that as validate old password. Again, what we need to do is set is loading as true in here at the top, and then after the credential we want to re-authenticate the user. So that's quite easy. All we would do is await, and it's suggesting user.re-authenticate with credential, but that's not Firebase version 9. So it's essentially re-authenticate with credential coming from Firebase Auth. You pass in the user, which essentially is the user we have here. So this should be of type auth, or user should I say, and then the credential. So that's the credential up here. Let me save that. Now what we want to do is we want to update the user password. So this is easy as well. So await update password. So it's pretty much update password, and that comes from Firebase Auth. And if we go over this one, it says it takes in a user and a new password, which we have as well. So that is pretty much it. And then we just need to handle this. So navigate to the login page and we want to alert. So again, you could have a toaster, but it says password updated successfully. So we could go back to the login page as well. So You could also log the user out if you wanted to and do it that way as well. So that is how you would essentially update the user's password. So if you wanted to find out if a function exists, if you're struggling to find update password in the docs or something like that, then if you go in Firebase Auth over here, and then essentially this is what all the functions are in Firebase Auth. So if we click through to at Firebase Auth, and then these are essentially the docs. So you can see everything is in here. Most of the functions are in yellow. So if we scroll down, you can see these functions here. So update current user, device language, sign out. These are all in yellow. So this is a handy way to get access to the documentation without even looking at the Firebase doc. So essentially that is how you would update the user's password. So we now have a TypeScript error, which essentially is we need to import that in now. So now let's save and test this out to see if it works. So going back in the browser, I now need to change my password. So it's Firebase Auth. And again, you could do input type of password in here to make it more secure. And then the new password is going to be Firebase Auth 2. So now all I need to do is confirm password change, loading, and then now you can see it says password updated successfully. So if I press OK, I'm now navigated back to here. So now all I need to do is type in Firebase Auth, and actually what I'll do is change this input type to text so you can see what's going on. So input type of password to text. So actually that's the wrong password. So this password should be Firebase Auth 2. So if I go in the console, I should get an error. So let me sign in. And now you can see here, I get a Firebase error saying auth invalid credential. So it's the wrong password basically. So now if I do Firebase Auth 2 and sign in, let me just close this off and sign in. Why is it saying that? Okay, so that's still showing an error. So let's go and find out what's happening. So Firebase Auth, press enter, you're getting an error. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click forgot password, put it in here. I'll get access to the new password in my email, so I'll be right back. So now you can see here I've got an email in here, but what happened was your sign-in email was changed to this. So because we changed our sign-in email before in the previous video, it's basically said this is my email address, but really it should be the email address imrancodes@gmail.com, because that's what we should actually want. So essentially if I go into here, it says updated email address. It's basically changed my email address. So now if I go back in here, I should be able to log in with Firebase Auth 2. And let me just quickly show you again. This is input type text, and actually let me just try with one or without it first of all, just to see if we get the error. Yeah, we get the error there, but what I want to do is press 2, and now you can see we are logged in. So basically what happened was in the previous video we changed our email address, which I do not recommend doing, and because we did that, we was logging in but the user wasn't verified or anything like that, and we was also using the wrong email address. So that is why it was not logging us in. But now if I go into here, so this is what it changed to, but if I go onto another tab and back in, it should go back to the correct email, because here we changed the email back to this one. So let's go back in Firebase Auth into users, and now you can see this is the correct user. So essentially that's how you would create the update password feature. So that's how you would update it. But now what I want to look at is these errors here. So these are the errors, and it's all good and well being in the console, but we need to figure out a way of handling these errors, and we will do that next.